Hey, we're talking about SpaceX. Up next on Geek Out SA. Do not attempt to adjust your YouTube video. We control the stream. And welcome back to Geek Out SA. It's Friday and we're having fun.
That intro's too short. You don't even get your dance on. You're like, done.
Done.
And I'm done.
And I'm done.
And here I am.
But then now you have us, so that's a good thing.
I guess.
So we're talking about SpaceX today. A bunch of stuff has happened with SpaceX in the last few days.
Yeah, it's been pretty exciting, and I'm afraid, and I'm glad we're talking about this because I'm definitely afraid that people are going to mix some things up and think some things are happening that are not happening, and so it's nice to kind of talk about it and clarify it.
We really have to look because when I first saw this story about what happened today, I was like, what? So I had to research and look it up and see what's actually happening here.
Well, you have to be paying attention, and you have to really read, which people are not so good at anymore nowadays. So I'm glad that they're
just like, oh, I see a video. This is happening right now, which it was happening right now. But SpaceX is
so SpaceX is a company.
SpaceX is a company that is working with NASA right now, and they're working to get people to Mars.
Yeah. First space in general, probably first the moon as kind of a way station, and then to Mars. It's going to be a while before we get to Mars. It's not like, SpaceX is doing all of this stuff and then all of a sudden in a few years we're going to get to Mars. That's not likely.
Because SpaceX, the founder is Elon Musk.
Elon Musk.
So he's famous for Tesla, and
he's a famous entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Scientific dude. Yeah. He hires scientific minds to help him with these processes. But today they had a setback.
And then Steve's here. He says, "Hey guys, loving the Star Trek the Trek reference on the video title."
Yay!
We tried it.
I actually made my students our last learning part of the year is space. And so I made them all do a project called Space, the Final Frontier, and they're all too young to know, and most of them aren't geeks or nerds. So, I have tons of projects now that say Space, the Final Frontier. And it's like all these videos and different things that the kids did, and I'm like, haha, I made you say a geek thing. I'm all happy with myself in the background. But yeah, so SpaceX had a big kaboom today. A big bada boom.
Yes, but before we get to that, Wednesday we were supposed to have a launch.
So Wednesday we were supposed to have a launch. We were supposed to send people to the International Space Station from here in the United States, which hasn't happened since 2011.
Two NASA astronauts that were going to be launched here in Florida, Cape Canaveral.
In Cape Canaveral, yeah. But the thing about it is, I know that people think the Earth is flat, but it's not. It's round. And so because it's round and because of the Coriolis effect, when the rocket takes off from Florida, it goes in this trajectory, like this.
So explain what the Coriolis effect
The Coriolis effect is because the way the Earth is shaped, because it's round, when you're in flight or clouds or anything that's in the air, it moves in this pattern because the Earth is rotating, and so the Earth is moving and you're still going what seems like a straight line, but it's not. It curves, right? So the space station the shuttle doesn't just shoot straight up into the air. That's not how it works. It has to take that curve.
It starts to, but then
it starts to, but it has to take that curve because it's trying to resist that gravity that's pulling it down, right? So gravity's trying to pull you down. That's what keeps all of us on Earth, and we're tiny, so not so much gravity pulling on us. But when you get millions of pounds of space shuttle, gravity's really pulling on it to try to keep it down. So it's really got to pull against it. So it's got to take that curve and it's got to get through those layers of the atmosphere before it can get up.
Right.
Well, the problem is as it's curving, it's going from Florida up towards New York and Maine in that direction to get up and out of Earth's atmosphere. So we have to watch the weather all the way up so that something in the weather pattern is not messing up with that propulsion system, with rocking us too much, with moving us off. Because if you move too far off of your trajectory and you don't get out of the atmosphere in time, you've burned up your fuel and you can't get out of the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Because you have to have the fuel to pull you out of the atmosphere that's trying to hold you down.
So the really cool thing about the booster rockets, like the main rockets that get you out of the atmosphere, is that they're reusable.
Right, so this is a new SpaceX thing. This is not something that we've done before.
They're just trashed after the boosters are there.
Generally are meant to fall in the ocean. You know, we pick them up and I don't know what they do with them. I'd have to research that to find out. It's not something I ever looked into. They may recycle the materials for something, or I have no idea.
You would hope.
You would hope, but I have no idea. I'm sure they run tests on them and see like what was the burn pattern and what happened with this and what fuel things like set off or whatever, because it has different components inside of it. So I'm sure they have to go pick it up and run tests on it and do stuff like that. So SpaceX had a good idea that, okay, this propulsion, it's out, and then it has to kind of jettison apart, and there's a second propulsion system. Well, rather than just having that jettison out and fall into the ocean, let's put another system on it that can navigate it back to the launch pad, and we'll reuse it. We'll just fuel it back up again, because if it doesn't explode, which we don't want to happen, right? But if it doesn't explode, it's still viable. It's still usable. They think maybe 4 times. Right now, the goal is at least 2.
At least 2.
At least to use it 2 times. Which is good for them should they want to start sending us. They're looking at it from a commercial lens, right? Before we looked at space as this place where we can investigate, right? This adventure that's out there, this, out in the wild blue yonder, let's go west, boys, manifest destiny, let's get out into space kind of thing. But now, more and more, Elon Musk, and then what's that other guy? He's kind of a blonde guy, did like T-Mobile or whatever, Bronson or something.
Oh, from Virgin Mobile?
Branson, Virgin Mobile, yeah, that guy. Richard Branson. They are starting to see it as more of a commercial thing. So maybe like as a vacation spot, right? You get to go up into space and maybe orbit the Earth or whatever, get to see space, get to see Earth from space, and you come back down.
Go around the moon.
Go to the moon and land and have a destination. That's like way out. But they're trying to at least, within maybe the next 10 years, get these commercial flights where we can at least kind of go around the top zone of the atmosphere, see the Earth from above, be like, oh, that's cool, and come back.
Now, we have some of that going, but it's like $1 million a trip.
They have some of that pre-scheduled, but it's not viable yet.
Well, they've done it, but not way out there. They're in the atmosphere, but not the top.
To what we're talking. Not to what we're really talking about. So SpaceX is in a unique position because, yes, they're working with NASA because NASA has some of the most brilliant minds when it comes to rocket science and things like that. So, yes, they're working with NASA, and yes, they want to, help the United States with its space program, but SpaceX ultimately is a company. So they want to commercialize this. Well, if you're a company that wants to make money, you just can't be throwing rockets into the ocean every time you launch a group of people into space. So for them to have come up with this so that the rocket comes back, and if you watch the video, it's really cool. It's really cool because they're watching that rocket come back, and that rocket just comes back and just kind of like puts itself nice and
sets itself like on a dime. You're like, what?
Yeah, and that's all a computerized system inside of there that tells it what to do. And that's one of the things that Vincent and I did a cute video. I don't know if you guys saw it on this channel, actually, that we did for my students. It was the Goldilocks video.
Goldilocks zone. Yeah.
Yeah. And so trying to teach the students about what kind of planets we would need to look for should we be able to travel in space, but also talking to them about manned versus unmanned space missions. So we're all watching tentatively for SpaceX to get this manned mission up and running and get these men out there, right? These humans. But they've had unmanned missions already.
Yeah.
So...
Well, just to get the rockets out.
Just to get the rockets out and get the rockets going and see how far out they can go and how they can last. You have to have those things happen. It's just like testing a drug for some kind of disease, right? You're not going to just like run and start testing it on random people. Well,
this rocket that they've used that they were going to use on Wednesday, which it's not happening on Wednesday. It's possibly happening tomorrow or Sunday.
They have dates tomorrow and Sunday, and then if it fails tomorrow and Sunday, they've got to kind of...
They have dates for next week, but I think the 6th and the 7th are out of question.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
So
it'll be a shame if it doesn't.
It's all depending on the weather.
Yeah.
For that to happen. But you're like thinking is like we've seen all of these things in movies and television shows with spaceships, and we're just not there yet. And it's kind of a little like, why aren't we there yet? Why haven't we figured out how we can get outside of the atmosphere without using all of this energy just to get there?
Well, you and I have a unique experience because we were born right on the tail end. The astronauts went to the moon in 1969, and you and I were born in 1973 and 1974. So it was space was still kind of fresh in everybody's minds when we were born. And then, I don't know about you, but I distinctly remember in junior high when they rolled the TV in and we watched the space shuttle explode.
Yeah.
It was pretty traumatizing. So I think things like that give us enough fear or concern, maybe, that I think that's what takes us longer. We were talking about this before the show. When we're out exploring the ocean, right, and you're out on these ships and here on Earth and you're doing exploring and stuff, except for if you're in the, super depths of the ocean. Okay, your ship crashes and maybe you're shipwrecked or something on an island, or you're floating on a piece of wood out in the ocean. You still feel like you have hope and you have a chance of survival, right? Because there's oxygen and stuff.
Yeah. Something
goes wrong on the space shuttle, you're kind of out of luck. The last time that the space shuttle burned up on re-entry, a bunch of even citizen scientists knew because the panel had come off, and we were like, they can't re-enter with it like that. We need some kind of contingency plan. We need to get a different shuttle up there, but we didn't have the time frame to build a shuttle to get up there before their resources ran out. So they rolled the dice. They gambled. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I find interesting is there were 2 speeches ready for when Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin went to the moon. There was one that congratulated them, and there was one that told them goodbye and was basically like, we're going to kind of watch them on the moon until they die.
Yeah.
And thanks, guys, for your service. Mm-hmm. Kind of thing. There's not a lot of wiggle room in space. Something bad happens, it's going to probably be fairly catastrophic.
But you think once we get this going, once we make this happen, this first trip, do you think things will start to change?
No, not at all.
In that respect?
Mm-mm. No, not at all. We've got a long ways to go.
Well, it depends where we're going. If we're just going into the upper atmosphere or maybe the moon, there is a little bit of wiggle room. Because we're not. We've got the Russians, the Chinese. They've all got some sort of space vehicle.
Right.
That they can kind of, if we need to, go up and get somebody.
Yeah.
But further out than our upper atmosphere and stuff.
No way.
Big long road.
I mean, one of the nice things about SpaceX is they are smart enough to realize that things are going to happen. So they had their explosion today of the SN4, which is totally different from the Falcon 9. It's a totally different propulsion system. It's meant for large ships.
Nobody got hurt.
No. It's a test of a brand new engine, right?
So let me give a little more. So a fiery explosion at SpaceX test site at Boca Chica in Texas, it's like near Brownsville, occurred at 1:49. So about, they did a brief firing of the Raptor engine. And about 2 minutes after that, exploded.
So they kind of knew, they were already kind of anticipating it because they're almost finished with building the next one that they're going to test that's in this series. So they'd already tested this SN4 a few times, just kind of done the firing that they have to do, that's the initial processes, and do some of the pressurizing and stuff. And they had already seen where some of the flaws were, and so they kind of knew this is probably what's coming, right?
Right.
So they were already in works on building the next one. They're already building the next one. So the next one should be ready fairly soon so that they can do some new tests. But that's the thing that people don't understand about science. People want to go like, oh, you suck. Oh, your rocket exploded. We need it to explode.
So we know why things explode and happen that way.
Right.
So the next time you build it, you don't make that same mistake.
Right. Yeah, we need the bad to happen in science so that we know, oh, that leads to X thing that's going to be terrible. We need to fix that before we put people in it. Because they want this SN4 to propel a ship that holds at least 100 people into space. We have not ever been anywhere near that number of people on a shuttle. So that's a lot of people.
What is it, 6?
I thought it was 4. I don't know. I'd have to look and see what the maximum was that went up. It may have been 6 that went successfully. That I don't know. Not off the top of my head. I'd have to research. But yeah, 100 people, that's a lot. When you're talking, because here's the thing, you need oxygen in space for these people. You need food in space for these people. You need a place for the waste for all of these people, because we don't just throw our waste out into space. That's not how that works, right? There are all numbers of things that you have to think of that adds mass to this ship that's going to have to then get out of the atmosphere and out of the gravity that's trying to pull on all this mass to the ship. So from what I understand, this new rocket is using a slightly different fuel system. The Falcon 9, which hopefully they're going to get to use tomorrow, uses a form of kerosene and liquid oxygen. And I think that the kerosene has had something done to it. Either it's been frozen or cryogenically frozen or something. They do something to change the properties of it so that it has the burn rate that they need. And I'm not a rocket scientist. I'd have to read it a few times to understand. I have to read it a few times to understand what they're talking about. I know some of the basic like chemistry and stuff from the science that I've taken, but I'm not a rocket scientist.
But the one that exploded today is a methane oxygen.
A methane and oxygen, not a kerosene.
Not a kerosene.
Yeah. So that must have a different burn rate, I'm assuming, to get that mass of people up into space. So that one's in the early testing. So explosion is like, okay, yes, definitely that's going to happen. Because even the Falcon 9, I think Stuart and I were looking, we were trying to decide how many times they had tested it, 89 or 87 or something.
Just looking on the Falcon 9 data, they've only had 2 failed missions.
2 failed.
And they were years and years ago. And one was like, actually 2.5. There was a partial failure before a mission, but that's it.
That's it. That's not bad. That's not bad. But to think they had those 2 failures and they kept trying until they're getting, into the 80s before they're putting people on it, right? Because the potential for harm is great.
Yeah.
So you have to keep trying that out.
And during all this stuff, there's been a lot more UFO sightings again.
Right.
Just kind of make you wondering.
Well, so let's
Are we being watched to see where we are in our space travel?
They don't care.
I think they care because I think we're the parasites of the universe.
Possibly.
And I think they don't want us to get off our planet.
They don't want us to get out there stealing people's pockets.
and wreck on everybody else's stuff. Yeah, they're like, no, these fools need to stay here. Let's ruin their
They're
stuff.
already messing up their
They're already
planet.
messing up their planet. Can you imagine if these cockroaches get off? Well, let me ask you, since we're talking about, like, it's been since 1969 that we've gone to the moon. Mm-hmm. Do you honestly think that the moon landing is fake?
I don't think it's fake.
No, really.
Mm-mm. Do you think it's fake?
I don't know. It just seems odd. Don't you think to me it seems odd.
The whole moon is odd.
The whole moon is odd? Why is the whole moon odd?
Does the moon rotate?
The
No.
moon doesn't rotate.
The moon does not
Why
rotate.
does that not rotate? It's the only orbital body of a moon that doesn't do that.
I don't know. It has to do with the composition of it.
Giant spaceship.
It's a giant spaceship that's watching us
That's
to
why you
keep
can
us on
only
our
see
planet.
one side.
Yeah.
That's why we can only see one side, because on the other side there's a whole colony of
Yeah.
people of another civilization that's watching us.
Maybe it has something to do with magnetism, because it is part of the Earth.
Yeah. I'm sure that scientists already know why. I just haven't researched it. I don't know. It's fishy, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I have seen Buzz Aldrin lose his mind and like go off and haul off and punch people. Like I've seen it not in person, but like on interviews and stuff. People telling him that it was fake. Like it very much offends him. And people think it was fake. I just wonder why. I mean, is it just because we never put the funding back into it?
But they didn't have the technology to fake it then. We do now.
You don't think they had like soundstage capabilities and qualities?
Like that. Not to do that kind of stuff.
I don't know. I guess we'll find out. What is the statute of limitations of when we can like open sealed things and find out secret stuff?
Isn't it like 50 years?
I think so. So shouldn't we know by now?
Yeah.
I don't know. I want it so badly. I want it to be real. I do. I want it to be a thing that actually happened. I
know it makes people a lot of question of why haven't we gone back, but why would we go back? We've been there already.
We would go back to research. We would go back to see if there are resources because it's part of our planet. So is there resources that we could mine or drill? Why haven't we gone to use some of the resources? We're using all the resources down here.
But isn't the idea to go beyond that? And we just don't have the technology to go beyond that?
Yeah, but we would have to have a way station there anyway. So why haven't we begun to build a way station on the moon?
But we have a way station of the International Space Station.
Yeah, but we're going to need something further out than that.
Well, now, but we don't have the technology to do that.
Right, but why don't we? We've had plenty of time. We've had since 1969.
Since 1969, yeah, we did. But
so 51 years.
But who's stopping that?
Well, some of it is federal funding, right? So I got to be really honest because I've worked in the science before. A lot of science is funded by grant money, and scientists sabotage one another's work so that they can take the grant, so that their work can be on top and they can be named. It's human ego, right? So if they're working on grants, that system could be in place as well. It could have been that they all came together for that one moment because the president pushed so much and we wanted to be on top and we needed to be above and things were going on in the country. It's a lot of that bait and switch, right? Mm-hmm. Things are going on in the country and bad things are happening in the world. Oh, look, surprise, we're going to the moon. A little bait and switch maybe, and we just threw all of our resources in it to get there, and there was no fighting anymore for grant money or anything, and everybody got to come together maybe. I don't know, because I wasn't there. I didn't live during that period, so I don't know.
I think it was a lot of us versus the Russians, first person to get there, and then we got there and went, okay, what's next?
I mean, don't we have telescopes and we can see the flag that's on the surface of the moon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So...
And trust me, if we didn't actually do it, the Russians would come out and say, "Oh, you didn't do it," and then they'd fly up there and it's like, "Oh, we
did it. We did it. Look at us. Look what we did."
Yeah, here's the Russian flag right here. See?
Steve says in Star Trek lore, there is a Jupiter station, so why not have multiple? Also, Space Force was officially announced, so they've got to have a budget by now. I mean, they already stole Star Trek's logo. Space
Force is a smokescreen, so whatever budget they have is, I mean, let's just call it how it is. Space Force is just to keep us, just like leaking all of the UFO stuff, is to keep us from paying attention to all the garbage that's really actually going on in the country. So let's not kid ourselves. So the budget that we have for Space Force, meh.
I think Space Force, there's a little bit of truth to it because, come on, all the satellites and stuff we have up there, all they have to do is take out 3 or 4 satellites. Because all the satellites they all hover above in geosynchronous orbit over like the United States, so that's how all our GPS and stuff works.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody takes all them down, we're screwed.
Well, do you know the amount of space junk we have up there? It's ridiculous. It's straight ridiculous. I was having one of my students research for their year-long project ways that we're looking into trying to get rid of it because there is so much of it. There are so many satellites and probes and things just floating around in there, just orbiting us. I mean, it is a landfill up there. It's a wonder, and it's a wonder that these astronauts don't get hurt and the International Space Shuttle doesn't get hurt, because even a little tiny bolt out in space going, at that rotational velocity could hit you, and I don't know. But there was this really cool one that we saw that was like a space whip kind of thing. And so it was a propose. So it was going to whip the junk and like hurtle it towards the sun. So that it would like break up and melt down in the sun. But even if we could send it to Venus, because Venus is actually hotter than Mercury because of the atmosphere on Mercury. Mm-hmm. Mercury's closer, but Venus is hotter. Even if we could send things towards Venus and get it to, burn up in their atmosphere and go down.
Yeah.
But eventually that's going to be, we talk about like jobs of the future and stuff. Eventually, like Space Garbage Man is going to have to be a job that we come up with. And we're going to have jobs of people who come up with something to get that garbage out of space.
Yeah, I don't think we can be throwing stuff into Venus. It's like us throwing a lot of garbage into volcanoes.
Well, I was going to say, Venus has a lot of volcanoes, so I'm
just... You can't go throwing garbage into volcanoes. It's already proven. We'll just destroy stuff even worse.
We like to destroy things. It's our favorite pastime.
And that's why the aliens are trying to sabotage us.
That's why the aliens are keeping track of us.
That's why we haven't been able to get to the moon again, is because of aliens.
No, there's no 7-Eleven on the moon. That's why we're not there.
Yet.
Personally, I don't think they're trying, because the whole point to get to the moon was to fly there. When we start getting more serious about going to Mars and stuff, then we'll be lobbing a whole heap of stuff up on the moon and trialing stuff out.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they're supposed to do, right? They're supposed to set something up on the moon before they go to Mars.
Mm-hmm.
But
they
should be doing it now, though, shouldn't they?
They need a fueling station, yeah. What would be beneficial would have supplies and a fueling station be on the moon. So you take that short jump to the moon, and you
just
don't
like
have...
Armageddon, there's not enough fuel in the International Space Station to fill up 2 spaceships.
Well, you don't have the mass that has to break through the atmosphere every time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I've been nonstop grading and stuff. It's the end of the 6 weeks. Please forgive me. And I've been crying all day. I wore myself out. So if you have the supplies already sent, right, on smaller missions to the moon, and it's already stocked up there, then when you hit that first leg of the mission and you go out to the moon, you have less propellant, you have less mass that has to get out of that gravitational pull. And so then that saves you some fuel and stuff like that too, before then you go to the moon. And then you can use a different kind of fuel in space to then propel you from the moon to Mars, right?
Yeah, it's just getting out of our atmosphere.
It's getting out of our atmosphere. That's the biggest.
You need that big giant elevator that they're planned.
Just a big giant elevator. Just like take us up to Jesus. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. We've been fortunate to see a lot of movement in the space race in our lifetime. I think that we will continue to see it, especially now that we get companies involved that want to commercialize it. I think that's always when you're going to see big leaps in technology is commercialization. When people
want to make money off of it.
Because even with SpaceX, if people are watching, SpaceX designs suits as well. But these suits are not meant for like walking around out in space, right? It's not that kind of suit. Those suits are separate, and we still have those suits, and they're still designed the same way that they were. They haven't revamped them. Are they working on revamping them? Yes, definitely, but they haven't yet. But these suits that the guys are wearing now are specially fitted to them. They, like you were saying earlier, go ahead.
It's one piece.
Single piece.
To put on, so there's not a whole bunch of things that you have to put on to get it on.
The helmets
are 3D printed.
The gloves
allow you, they use a special leather on there that'll allow you to use touchscreen, because the SpaceX rockets run on touchscreen.
Yep, the shuttle is touchscreen. So the interesting thing about these suits is they actually consider the suit part of the ship. So the astronauts get into the suit, and then it has all of these electronics in it, and they have what they call an umbilical. It's a cord, and they plug it into their seat. So that has a monitoring system in it that helps keep their temperature correct. It helps keep their pressure correct. Because you're going at these speeds, and it's pulling, and so it's trying to keep you pressurized correctly. And then if something happens, it's flame retardant. It has that impact resistance, like that's in the new football helmet technology to help them should they have any kind of crash or anything like that. So it's this whole system, and then it has their mics and everything in it. What I wanted to see, and I didn't see it, and I don't think they're there yet, but I know it's probably something that they're thinking of. The visor comes up and down, so that when they're in a safe enough position and they don't need it, they can flip the visor up and they can look at the touchscreen.
Well,
I'd be interested to see them have a display. But that's kind of sci-fi movie, I think, but to have the display on the visor. I mean, I know we have Google Glass and stuff, and I know Google is part of SpaceX, so I know that they've got to be helping with some of this technology as well.
I know one of the other cool things about it, about the suits, is that the last things to go on are your gloves. So you can zip up, because I think there's only a zipper from ankle to ankle.
Yeah.
On the bottom, so that's how it's the one piece. So you slip it on over, and then you zip yourself up that way. And then after, because your hands are free to be able to do that, and you don't have the bulky gloves on, then you put on the gloves after the fact.
Yeah.
So and I thought that was a cool aspect. They thought of a lot of stuff.
Well, and so Elon said that they are hoping that kids of today will get to see these launches, and they'll see these astronauts in these suits, and they'll think, well, those suits look really B.A. Baracus, right? So, maybe I'd like to be an astronaut too. And so then it fuels the minds of these kids, and we get some new scientists, and we get some new minds and stuff in there.
Use a more modern term than B.A. Baracus. Oh wait, the kids probably still know that.
It's real. They think it's lit, and so
you can say Mr. T. They know who Mr. T is.
I think it's Mr. Well, I just BA because it stands for bad arse, and then so I didn't want to say bad arse, so I say BA Baracus. That's just something I say when I'm trying not to say naughty potty words, because I try not to say naughty potty words.
That's her thing.
It's a me thing.
That's my thing.
The more you know.
Dun, dun, dun.
So yeah, they're trying to entice young minds because you just never know, right? Somebody out there might have some idea that might seem ridiculous at the time or now, or even, people that read sci-fi books or created those stories, it seemed far-fetched and ridiculous, and yet our invention, our ingenuity comes from reading those kinds of things and wanting those kinds of adventures and seeking out to make those things a reality. I mean, it's just like us watching what we were watching about how they are filming for The Mandalorian and stuff. It just takes people thinking, if I could only, and they have to try it, and they have to fail, and they have to try it again, and they have to fail. And that's what SpaceX did today. They failed, but they failed gloriously. They failed in a way that they already kind of sort of knew was coming, and they're already ready to fix it and move on to the next failure so they can see how they can fix that.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. To me, it's exciting. It's exciting to see us trying to do all of this.
No, I'm really excited to see where it goes because I've been wanting to see an epic launch. And I thought I was going to get that Wednesday, so hopefully we'll get that tomorrow.
Yeah.
The weather looks better.
Weather looks better. I don't know. I always have PTSD when I watch. Like, it really gives me the gut clench. Like, I'm just really afraid that something, and I don't want it to happen. Like, I want it to be glorious, and we get out there in space, and I've always wanted to go to space. When I was a kid, I wanted to go to space.
Well, I think that's because our generation grew up. We always used to watch whenever the rockets got launched. Even at school, I remember them, because we were on a different timetable. They drag out the TV and we'll watch the rocket get blown to smithereens. Yeah. And that's when they probably, I think they stopped at school broadcasting.
Probably.
After Challenger.
Yeah.
Because I remember seeing that live, because they brought us in. I was like, this is going to be a great event. So they all had us go into the library, and I was at a small private school then, and then we just saw it explode.
It was crazy.
And you're like,
there's been two times in my lifetime where I have looked at something on television and thought, this just can't be real. And it was that, and it was 9/11.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those two things.
The only thing different about 9/11 is I didn't see it happen live.
Oh, I did. I saw the second one happen live. I just happened to be on my break at work, and it was streaming on the TVs at USAA. And we were just all like,
Well, nobody saw the first one. The first one wasn't filmed. Nobody filmed the first one.
No, but they knew that something was wrong. It was on. Yeah. They were like, there's something wrong with the towers, blah, blah, blah. There's like smoke or whatever. And you're like, oh, there's something going on. And then, so yeah. But we're resilient. We bounce back. And so that's what we're going to do with the space. We're resilient. And so we didn't get to launch because of the weather. Well, we're going to bounce back and we're going to try again.
Yeah. And
our rocket explodes. Well, we're going to bounce back and we're going to build another one and we're going to try again, So.
Well, the one that exploded, again, it's experimental. They already had another one that they were working on, because I think that the N series rocket, I think they've had that was the fourth one.
That was the fourth.
I think the first one failed, the second one retired, the third one failed a couple of months ago or something.
Yeah, just recently. And the fourth one went.
And then this is just a completely different physics, because you're talking about pushing a lot more people.
Yeah, a lot more people through.
The other piece that they want to use this technology for is moving people around on this planet. They want to get everybody. If somebody wants to go from point A to point B, they can do it in under an hour, anywhere on the planet.
That would be interesting. Yeah. It'd be like the bullet train in the sky.
You go up real high and then come down. We're here.
Okay, we're there. We just go up and let the Earth go underneath us, and
they let us float for like 5 minutes as they're coming down. So yeah, we talked about the SpaceX launch that came out that didn't happen on Wednesday. Hopefully it happens tomorrow or Sunday. We talked about the SpaceX explosion. So I'm really excited about what's happening, and I hope you are too.
We just hope that you read and understand and don't like lump everything together.
Yeah, don't think it's going to explode.
Don't think the astronauts are going to explode. It's a totally different thing. Yeah.
So thanks for checking us out. Really appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed, please click on that subscribe button and click the notification button so you'll find out next time we come on. Thanks for checking us out. I'm Vince.
I'm Colleen, and that's Stuart.
Geek out, SA.